September 1944, above the jungles of Borneo. The deep hum of twin Allison engines vibrated through the cockpit as Major Richard Ira Bong eased his P-38 Lightning into a shallow dive. The air shimmered with heat, and below, a formation of Japanese fighters clawed toward the sky, desperate to intercept American B-24 bombers lumbering toward their targets. They didn't know death was already watching from above. Bong's gloved hands moved calmly across the controls. Through his bulletproof windscreen, he tracked the enemy like a hawk. The unassuming farm boy from Poplar, Wisconsin, the son of a quiet northern town, had become one of the most feared names in the Pacific. A pilot whose precision and patience turned the chaos of combat into a cold science. At 24, Bong had already downed more planes than any American before him. But his story wasn't one of arrogance or swagger. It began in quiet defiance and discipline forged through mistakes. Just a few years earlier, at Hamilton Field in California, Second Lieutenant Bong had nearly destroyed his career before it began. Fresh from training in Arizona, he couldn't resist the thrill of flying low over San Francisco, rolling and looping his P-38 in unauthorized aerobatic displays that broke every rule in the Army Air Force's manual. His superiors were furious. He was grounded immediately, facing possible dismissal. But General George Kenney, one of the Pacific's most perceptive commanders, saw something others didn't. Beneath the recklessness was control, exceptional control. Bong possessed the kind of instinct you couldn't teach. Perfect depth perception, lightning reflexes, and an uncanny ability to remain calm in chaos. Instead of ending his career, Kenney decided to shape it. He sent Bong for more training, watching closely as the young pilot learned to turn raw talent into mastery. By late 1942, Bong was assigned to the 9th Fighter Squadron of the 49th Group, heading to New Guinea. The Pacific skies were no place for rookies. The Japanese pilots had years of experience from China and the Philippines. They were lethal, confident, and battle-hardened. Bong had only a few hours in his Lightning when he faced them for the first time. The P-38 was a machine unlike anything the enemy had encountered, a twin-boom Predator with unmatched firepower and speed. 4.50 caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon were mounted in its nose, firing straight ahead in a focused cone of destruction. Bong quickly realized that turning fights with Japanese Zeros meant suicide. The Zeros could twist and loop tighter, but they couldn't match the Lightning's climb, dive, or speed. Bong developed a rule he never broke: never turn with the enemy. Attack from above, strike hard, and climb away before they could react. His first victories came fast and quiet. Combat reports barely hinted at the intensity of battle. Altitude, enemy type, rounds fired, kill confirmed. But behind the dry numbers was a young man perfecting a formula of survival and success. By using altitude, speed, and flawless marksmanship, Bong began carving his path toward legend. The untrained farm boy had turned his instincts into precision. Every trigger pull, every maneuver was deliberate. The war had found its ace, a quiet warrior whose calm eyes behind the gun sight would soon define aerial perfection. By December 1942, Bong found himself above the steaming jungles of Buna, New Guinea. The morning sun shimmered across the sea, and the air was thick with humidity and tension. He sat strapped in his cockpit, glancing at the gauges as his P-38 Lightning climbed alongside his squadron. Below, Japanese bombers moved in formation, their Zero escorts weaving protectively around them like wasps guarding a nest. Bong adjusted his oxygen mask, eyes narrowing as he spotted the enemy. This was no training flight now. This was real war. The call crackled through the radio. Bandits at 2 o'clock. In seconds, the sky erupted into motion. Tracers flashed, engines screamed, and vapor trails spiraled as aircraft turned, climbed, and fell. Bong had been told one thing again and again: never dogfight with a Zero. They could turn tighter, but they couldn't climb as fast. So he waited, patient as a hunter, circling above the chaos until a bomber drifted into his sights. He eased the throttle forward, aimed carefully, and squeezed the trigger. The nose-mounted guns roared to life, sending a stream of fire that ripped through the enemy's wing. The bomber erupted in flames. One down. Bong didn't shout. He didn't celebrate. He simply pulled up and repositioned for another pass. From that day, Bong began shaping his identity as a pilot defined not by aggression, but by control. While others relied on instinct and impulse, Bong relied on geometry. He studied deflection angles, learned how bullets and motion intersected, and trained his brain to predict where a moving target would be before it arrived. He understood that air combat wasn't chaos. It was math, timing, and patience. Every victory came from precision. Every escape from discipline. The P-38 itself demanded respect. It was a beast that could turn on its pilot in a second. Compressibility during high-speed dives could lock controls, sending pilots spiraling to their deaths. Bong learned those dangers firsthand and made them part of his advantage. He understood his machine better than anyone. He knew how far he could push before physics turned against him. That mastery became his invisible weapon. By mid-1943, Bong's kill count climbed steadily. His squadron mates started calling him the one-shot ace because of his uncanny ability to destroy an enemy aircraft with the briefest burst of fire. His gun camera footage revealed a chilling consistency. Short bursts, perfect aim, and no wasted ammunition. While others emptied belts of rounds, Bong fired less and hit more. His commanding officer noted that his ammunition efficiency was far beyond the average. Each mission refined his method. Climb above the enemy. Wait for the opening. Dive fast. Fire once, then vanish into the clouds. It was simple on paper, but deadly in practice. He made aerial combat look effortless. What most pilots learned in months, Bong mastered in weeks. And while the war dragged on and losses mounted, he turned efficiency into survival. The quiet boy from Wisconsin was now one of America's deadliest weapons. Not because he fought recklessly, but because he fought perfectly. By early 1944, the war in the Pacific had turned into a relentless contest of endurance. The Japanese still dominated the islands with scattered airfields and fierce pockets of resistance. But the Americans were advancing, one base at a time. Richard Bong had already become a legend within his squadron. His name carried weight among pilots who whispered about his calm eyes and steady hands. But fame came with pressure. Every victory made him a target, every mission another gamble against fate. He had survived countless battles, but each takeoff meant a new roll of the dice. That year, the 5th Air Force pushed deeper into enemy territory. Bong was flying out of Dobodura, New Guinea, leading pairs of P-38s on escort and interception missions. The jungle below stretched endlessly, green and unforgiving, while above, the air shimmered with the ghosts of smoke trails and sunlight. He had already tallied more than 20 kills, yet he carried no arrogance. To Bong, each engagement was another test of control, a chance to refine the formula that had kept him alive. He studied his opponents obsessively. Japanese pilots favored climbing spirals to lure Americans into stalls. Bong countered with precision dives and energy retention, turning their advantage into traps. He would approach unseen from the sun, unleash a short burst, then disappear before the enemy could even react. To his wingmen, it felt like magic. But Bong didn't believe in luck. He believed in discipline, and every move he made came from analysis and repetition. His fellow pilots described him as quiet, almost shy, yet in the air he transformed. The cockpit was his element, and there he became something else, focused, detached, lethal. When ground crews inspected his aircraft after missions, they often found the gun barrels still cool. Bong didn't spray bullets. He delivered decisions. His flight leader once said that watching Bong fight was like watching an artist at work, each maneuver painted with intent and precision. But perfection came at a cost. The constant combat, the endless missions, and the unbearable pressure began to wear on him. Letters from home reminded him of what he'd left behind. The snow-covered farms of Wisconsin, the quiet fields, the family who still thought of him as the boy who used to milk cows before dawn. Yet here he was, thousands of miles away, counting victories in a sky filled with smoke and fire. By mid-1944, Bong's score reached 30. His reputation spread across the Pacific like a legend. Younger pilots looked up to him, some calling him the ace maker, others simply Bong. Commanders sent him on fewer missions, fearing the loss of their top ace would be too heavy a blow to morale. But Bong wasn't ready to stop. He believed his skill belonged to the men still flying beside him. Each mission he accepted wasn't about numbers, it was about duty. He flew not to add another mark beneath his name, but to protect the others who trusted him to lead. And with every flight, the skies seemed to whisper the same truth. Even legends are mortal. By the summer of 1944, Richard Bong had achieved what no other American pilot had ever done. 40 confirmed aerial victories. 40 enemy aircraft destroyed in combat. His name had become synonymous with precision and skill, his face known for posters and newspapers back home. But behind the fame, Bong remained the same quiet farm boy who once flew too low over San Francisco just for the thrill of flight. He wasn't chasing glory now. He was chasing purpose, the duty to finish what so many others had died trying to complete. Each mission weighed heavier on him. Commanders began pulling him from combat, ordering him to stay grounded, afraid that one mistake would end their most valuable symbol of victory. Bong resisted at first. He had built his life around the rhythm of takeoffs and landings, the rush of the engines, the silence between heartbeats when a target filled his sights. But even he knew the war had taken its toll. His friends were gone, his nerves worn thin, and his reflexes stretched to their limits. The boy who once played with model planes had become a man who understood what it meant to survive the sky. By late 1944, Bong returned home for a time, celebrated as a national hero. He was awarded the Medal of Honor by General MacArthur himself, who called him the embodiment of American courage. Yet Bong never saw himself that way. He smiled awkwardly during ceremonies, his modesty almost uncomfortable to those around him. Fame didn't sit well on his shoulders. He missed the hum of engines more than the applause. So when the war entered its final phase, he volunteered again, this time as a test pilot for the new P-80 Shooting Star, America's first operational jet fighter. The jet was fast, sleek, and unpredictable. It represented the future of aerial warfare, and Bong wanted to be part of that future. On August 6, 1945, while the world's attention turned to Hiroshima, Bong climbed into the cockpit of a P-80 for another routine flight. Moments after takeoff, the engine failed. The aircraft lost power and plunged into a Los Angeles neighborhood. Bong never had a chance to eject. The man who had survived countless battles over the Pacific was gone in an instant. News of his death struck like thunder. Across America, people read the headlines and wept. The greatest American ace, the farm boy from Wisconsin who had single-handedly redefined aerial combat, was gone at just 24. But even in death, Richard Bong's story was more than numbers and records. He had shown what discipline, courage, and precision could achieve in the most unforgiving skies on Earth. His formula, patience, altitude, and perfect timing became the foundation of every fighter doctrine that followed. Today, his legacy lives not just in museums or history books, but in every pilot who climbs into a cockpit believing that skill, not luck, wins wars. Bong's impossible trick wasn't just how he shot down 40 planes. It was how he turned an ordinary man's instinct into a legend that still soars through the clouds of history.